Here's what people actually regret. Bronnie Ware was a palliative care nurse in Australia who spent years caring for people in the last weeks of their lives. She started writing down what they said. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. When people looked back from their deathbeds, they could see, with a clarity that apparently only comes at the end, the exact moments when they chose the expected path over their own, the career their parents approved of, the relationship that looked fine from the outside, the opinion they kept to themselves so many times they almost forgot they had it. There are also studies from Gilovich that add something important. His studies found that the regrets that stay with us longest aren't about things we did wrong. They're about who we failed to become. He called these ideal self-regrets. Regrets about things we failed to do outlast regrets about things we did. Actions can cause more pain short-term, but inactions are what haunt us long-term. The unlived version of your life is harder to make peace with. The action isn't dramatic. It's noticing daily when you're doing something because you want to versus because you're managing someone else's expectations. That gap is where the regret accumulates, slowly, over years. I wish I hadn't spent so much time working. Yeah, what they missed wasn't really a vacation. It was the specific, ordinary moments. Their kids growing up, Tuesday evenings with their partner, conversation that felt unimportant at that time and turned out to be everything. There's a line from Karl Pillemer's research that's worth sitting with. The oldest people alive, many of whom lived through the Depression and 2 world wars, consistently said that ordinary daily life was what they valued most in retrospect. Not the promotions, not the achievements, those Tuesday evenings. The useful question isn't, am I working too much in the abstract? It's, what specific thing am I trading this hour for? And do I actually believe that trade is worth making? I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. People describe decades of managing how others perceive them, keeping the peace, not making it awkward, swallowing things that bothered them, and what they found at the end was that all that management had calcified into distance from their partners, from their friends, eventually from themselves. This specific pattern Bronnie observed repeatedly. People who suppress long enough lose access to what they actually feel. They get asked, "Are you okay?" and they genuinely don't know. That's not peace. That's estrangement from your own interior. The practical note here isn't express yourself more. Practice noticing what you feel before you decide what to do with it. Most people skip straight to managing the feeling. The noticing is what gets lost. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Both Bronnie Ware and Karl Pillemer flag this independently. There's always a reason to put it off. Then years pass and it feels strange to reach out. And by the time people were in palliative care, many of those relationships had simply dissolved. What the people mourned wasn't just a friendship. It was the version of themselves that existed inside that friendship. The person you are with someone who's known you since you were 20 is different from who you are at work or as a parent. Those contexts hold different parts of you. When the friendships go, those parts of you go quiet. And the data on loneliness is serious. Social isolation has health consequences comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I wish I had let myself be happier. Careful, not I wish I had been happier. Let myself, as in happiness was something they kept deferring. Once the situation improved, once they'd earn it. The question isn't whether you're happy, it's whether you're allowing yourself to feel what's actually good in your life right now, or whether you're holding out for a future version of circumstances that may never be more ready than today. There's also a related pattern Bronnie observed. People who confuse familiarity with contentment. They stayed in situations that weren't working, not because they were trapped, but because changing felt like admitting failure. I wish I hadn't spent so much of my life worrying. This one comes specifically from Pillemer's Cornell research. When he asked his respondents what they most regretted, the most common answer wasn't a failed relationship or a missed career. It wasn't a moral failure or a bad decision. It was worry. These people who had survived the Great Depression, World War II, poverty, people who had real things to worry about, and what they said almost unanimously was that most of the worry was wasted, that it consumed enormous amounts of their lives and almost never changed the outcome. The practical translation isn't stop worrying. That's not useful advice. It's a question worth asking yourself, is what I'm worried about right now something I can act on? If yes, act. If no, you're not solving a problem, you're just paying a tax on it in advance. The oldest people alive said that was one of the biggest wastes of a life. None of this is really new information. Most people have heard about things like that. But the bottom line is, and this can be actually good news, but maybe also slightly uncomfortable, none of these regrets include money, talent, or unusual circumstances. They're just about permission. Simple permission that you can do today. The permission to be honest about what you want, to show up for the people you care about, the permission to feel what you actually feel. In the end, we can make peace with the mistakes we have made, but we struggle with making peace with the things we could have done but never did.